Some truths don't wait to be revealed, they wait to be witnessed. I wasn't supposed to see her like that. Not tonight. Not when everything had been planned down to the second, the lighting, the music, the skyline stretching across Manhattan like something I owned. Because in many ways, I did. And yet the one thing I thought I understood, the one person I thought I chose, was standing 10 feet away from me in a dim corridor, whispering to a man who wasn't supposed to exist in her world, or mine anymore. And my body didn't react the way it should have. No surge of anger, no step forward. Just stillness, the kind that settles deep in your bones when something irreversible shifts, when the illusion cracks but hasn't shattered yet. And I stayed there, half hidden behind the cold marble column, watching Scarlet Haze with a focus so sharp it felt like I could hear her heartbeat, the slight tremor in her voice, the way her fingers curled into the sleeve of her coat, like she was holding onto something invisible, something slipping, and the man in front of her leaned closer, speaking low, too low for anyone else to catch. But I didn't need the words. I read people for a living. I read intentions, micro-movements, hesitation, and what I saw wasn't fear, not the kind she should have felt standing in front of him, not the kind any normal person would feel. It was familiarity, controlled, practiced, like this moment had happened before. And that realization settled in my chest heavier than anything I'd carried in years, because Scarlet Haze wasn't reacting like a woman caught in something dangerous. She was reacting like someone who knew exactly how to stand in the middle of it without flinching. And that's when my grip tightened around the small velvet box in my hand, the edges pressing into my palm hard enough to ground me, to remind me this was real, that 5 minutes ago I had been walking toward her with a future already decided, already sealed. And now every step I had taken felt like it belonged to a different man, a man who didn't know how to question her smile, her silence, the way she sometimes paused before answering simple questions like she was editing something out, something I had chosen not to see because I don't make mistakes, not in business, not in loyalty, not in the people I let close. And yet here I was, standing in the shadow of my own certainty, watching it unravel without a single sound. And I didn't interrupt them. I didn't announce my presence, because Jack Wick doesn't walk into a moment he doesn't understand. He studies it, owns it, reshapes it. So I stepped back slowly, careful, controlled, letting the darkness swallow me. Whole again, my mind already moving, already connecting fragments I had ignored. Late nights she couldn't explain, names she never finished saying, the way her eyes sometimes looked past me instead of at me. And for the first time since I met her, I didn't feel like the one in control of the room. I felt like I had just walked into someone else's design, and the most dangerous part wasn't that she had secrets. It was that I had never seen them coming. And as I slipped the ring back into my pocket, I realized something that didn't sit right, something that refused to settle, because this wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't just betrayal. This felt precise, deliberate, like every step that led me to Scarlet Haze had been calculated long before I ever noticed her. And that was the moment I understood. I wasn't the one planning a surprise tonight. I was the one walking into it. I have learned something about silence. It speaks louder when trust begins to fracture. And that night, every step I took away from that hallway echoed with a clarity I could not ignore, because I was not leaving. I was repositioning, recalibrating, turning a moment I did not control into one I would own. And as I walked back into the main room, the city stretched beyond the glass walls in perfect symmetry, lights flickering across Manhattan like nothing had changed, like the world still belonged exactly where I left it. But I knew better now. I knew something had shifted beneath the surface, something precise, something patient, and I slipped the velvet box deeper into my pocket, out of sight, out of reach, because that future no longer existed the way I imagined it, not until I understood what I had just seen, and more importantly, what I had not seen. And when Scarlet Haze finally stepped into the room minutes later, she looked exactly the same, composed, elegant, her expression soft in that way she perfected over time, the kind that disarmed people before they realized they had been read. And she smiled at me like nothing had happened, like there was no hidden conversation, no shadow following her steps, just warmth, just familiarity. And for a second, a very brief second, I almost believed it. But I do not survive by believing what I want. I survive by observing what is real. And tonight, reality had changed its shape. So I met her halfway, steady, controlled, my voice even when I spoke her name, watching closely for the smallest crack in her reaction, the slightest delay, the shift in her breathing. But she did not falter. She reached for my hand like she always did, natural, effortless. And that was the first confirmation. Because people who have nothing to hide do not perform consistency. They live it, and Scarlet Hayes was performing perfectly. And that perfection was the flaw. And as she spoke about the evening, about the view, about how beautiful everything looked from 50 floors above the street, I listened, but I was no longer hearing her words. I was mapping patterns, aligning fragments, late-night calls she ended too quickly, messages she never opened in front of me, the way she sometimes paused before answering questions that should have been simple. And suddenly those moments were no longer isolated. They were connected, deliberate, forming something I had ignored because I chose to trust her. And that choice now felt like the only mistake I had made. And I do not make mistakes twice. So I adjusted, subtle, invisible. I stepped into the role she expected, the man who planned this night, the man who saw only her. While inside, I was already moving 3 steps ahead, already building the questions I would not ask directly, the answers I would extract without confrontation. Because the truth does not come from pressure, it comes from space, from the illusion of safety. And I would give her that illusion. I would let her believe everything was intact, because the moment she felt threatened, she would retreat, and I needed her to stay exactly where she was, within reach, within view, within the boundaries of a game she did not know I had already started playing. And as the music shifted softly in the background and the city lights flickered like distant signals, I realized something that settled deep and cold in my chest, something that did not feel like anger, but something far more dangerous, clarity, because this was not about what Scarlet Hayes was hiding. It was about why she was hiding it from me, from Jack Wick. And there are only 2 reasons someone keeps secrets from a man like me: fear or intention. And when I looked into her eyes that night, I did not see fear, I saw control. And that was the moment I understood, whatever this was, it did not start tonight. It started long before she ever walked into my life. And I was only now catching up to a story that had already been written. Control is not something you lose. It is something you give away without realizing it. And I do not give anything away, not twice, not ever again. Which is why I let the night continue exactly as she expected, every detail untouched, every movement precise. Because the most dangerous place for someone hiding the truth is comfort, and I was about to give Scarlet Hayes all of it. Every illusion, she needed to believe she was still in control. And as we moved through the evening, I matched her rhythm, her tone, even the small laugh she used when she wanted to soften a moment. I mirrored it back just enough to keep everything aligned. Because people reveal more when they think they are safe, and she needed to feel completely safe with me, completely certain that I had seen nothing, suspected nothing, questioned nothing. And yet behind that calm, my mind was already dissecting everything. The timing of her absence, the location of that hallway, the man she spoke to, the familiarity in her posture, and one detail refused to leave: the way she had leaned in slightly, not cautious, not defensive, but intentional, like proximity was part of the conversation, like distance was something she controlled. And that told me more than any words could, because that is not instinct, that is learned behavior, repeated, practiced, and perfected over time. And as she stood beside me now, looking out over the city like this was just another perfect night, I realized something colder than suspicion, something sharper than doubt. I had never actually known where she came from. Not really. I knew the version she told me, the clean lines, the simple past, the carefully placed details that made her story believable. But believable is not the same as true, and I had accepted it because it fit, because it did not challenge anything I needed to question, and that was my oversight, not hers, and I do not make that kind of oversight again. So when she excused herself for a moment, just briefly, just enough to step away from the light, I did not follow immediately. I gave her space, counted the seconds in silence, letting the distance build just enough before I moved, because timing matters, too soon. And she adjusts, too late, and I miss something. And when I finally stepped into the corridor again, it was empty, completely still, like nothing had ever happened there. But absence is never empty. It leaves traces, patterns, and I noticed them instantly. The slight shift in the air, the faint scent that did not belong to the room, the door at the end not fully closed. And I did not rush. I never rush. I walked slowly, measured, each step deliberate until I reached that door. And when I opened it, there was no one inside, just a quiet space, untouched on the surface. But I do not look at surfaces, I look at what they hide. And that is when I saw it, something small, something most people would ignore, resting on the edge of the table, a detail that should not have been there, a detail that connected too perfectly with a memory I had buried years ago. And as I reached for it, the weight of that realization settled in fully, not as a question, but as a certainty. This was not coincidence. This was design, and Scarlet Haze was standing at the center of it, whether she chose to admit it or not. And as I closed my hand around that small, undeniable piece of truth, I understood something that changed everything. I was no longer trying to figure out what she was hiding. I was trying to understand why she had chosen me to hide it from. The smallest details are the ones people forget to hide, and those are the ones that matter the most, which is why I did not rush back, not immediately, not with that piece of truth still resting in my hand. Because once you see something clearly, you cannot pretend you did not, and I needed a moment, just one, to understand what it meant before I stepped back into a room where everything was still pretending to be perfect. And as I turned that object slightly between my fingers, the memory attached to it surfaced without effort, sharp, precise, untouched by time. Because I do not forget details, not when they are tied to something unfinished, something unresolved, and this was both. And that realization settled deeper than anything I had felt tonight. Because it was no longer just about Scarlet Haze and the life she showed me. It was about the life she had never mentioned, the connection she had carefully kept out of reach. And the question that followed was not simple. It was layered, calculated. Why now? Why me? And why this way? And I closed my hand around it again, hiding it completely before stepping back into the light. Because whatever this was, I was not revealing my advantage too early, not when the game had only just begun. And when I saw her again, standing exactly where I had left her, speaking with the same calm elegance, the same controlled warmth, I understood something else. She was not worried, not even slightly, which meant she believed everything was still exactly the way she left it, exactly the way she needed it to be. And that confidence told me more than any confession ever could. Because people who fear discovery do not stay relaxed. They adjust, they scan, they hesitate. But Scarlet Haze did none of those things. She remained composed, steady, untouchable in the way only someone with a plan can be, and I approached her slowly, letting my presence return without disruption, letting the rhythm of the night continue uninterrupted. And when her eyes met mine, there was no flicker, no hesitation, just that same soft familiarity, that same carefully measured warmth. And she reached for me again like nothing had changed, like I was still exactly where she expected me to be. And for the first time since I met her, I let her lead that moment. I let her believe she was still guiding the direction of the night. Because sometimes the fastest way to uncover the truth is to stop forcing it, to let it reveal itself naturally, piece by piece, until it becomes impossible to ignore. And as she spoke, as she smiled, as she moved through the space with effortless precision, I began to see it, not just the inconsistencies, but the intention behind them. The way she positioned herself slightly away from certain angles, the way her attention shifted at specific moments, the way her words avoided anything that could lead too close to something real. And it was subtle, so subtle that anyone else would have missed it entirely. But I do not miss patterns, not when they repeat, not when they align. And this was alignment, calculated, deliberate, and it confirmed what I already knew. This was not a coincidence. This was a structure, something built carefully over time, and I was standing inside it without realizing when I had stepped in. And that realization did not bring anger, it brought clarity, because now I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to stop seeing Scarlet Haze as the woman I chose, and start seeing her as the variable I had not accounted for. And variables can be studied, understood, controlled, but only if you are willing to accept that they were never what they appeared to be. And as I looked at her that night, truly looked at her without the version I had created in my own mind, I saw it clearly for the first time. She was not just hiding something from me. She was waiting for something specific, something timed, and whatever that moment was, it had not happened yet, which meant I still had time. Time to observe, time to adjust, time to turn whatever she had planned into something she did not expect. And as I let my expression soften just enough to match hers, just enough to keep everything exactly where it needed to be, I understood one final thing that settled everything into place. I was no longer reacting to her story. I was stepping into it on my own terms, and this time, I would be the one who decided how it ended. Timing is everything, and the moment someone is waiting for will always reveal more than the moment they create. Which is why I stopped looking for what Scarlet Hayes was hiding and started watching for when she would act. Because plans are not built on secrets alone, they are built on execution, and execution leaves a trail, no matter how carefully it is designed. And as the night continued to unfold around us, every detail began to sharpen. The music, the lighting, the movement of people in the room, all of it part of a structure that now felt less like a celebration and more like a stage, and I was no longer the one directing it. I was observing it from within, tracking the shifts, the subtle changes in her behavior that only appeared when she thought no one was paying attention, the brief glance toward the entrance every few minutes, the way her posture adjusted slightly when certain guests passed by, the almost imperceptible tension in her fingers when her phone vibrated once. And she chose not to check it, and that choice mattered, because people do not ignore information unless they already know what it contains, and that told me something else. Whatever she was waiting for, it was already in motion, already approaching, and she was preparing for it without breaking the image she had created for me. And I allowed it. I let the illusion hold. I played my role perfectly, because the closer we moved to that moment, the less she would be able to hide. And when she finally turned to me again, her expression soft, her voice steady as she suggested we step outside for a moment, just the two of us, I knew it was close, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it, controlled, but with a precision that did not belong to spontaneity. And I nodded without hesitation, because this was what I had been waiting for, not the answer, but the moment the answer would begin to reveal itself. And as we stepped out onto the terrace, the air cooler, quieter, the city stretching below us in a perfect illusion of calm, I felt the shift completely, the distance from the noise, from the distractions, from the safety of a crowd. This was intentional, calculated, and Scarlet Hayes moved with that same effortless grace, stepping closer to the edge, her gaze drifting outward like she was taking in the view. But I knew better now. She was not looking at the city. She was listening, waiting, measuring something I could not yet see. And I remained still, just behind her, watching, letting the silence build between us. Because silence forces truth to surface. And then it happened, subtle, almost unnoticeable. The change in her breathing, the slight tightening of her shoulders, the shift of her focus to a specific point below, and I followed her line of sight without turning my head, without breaking the moment. And that was when I saw it. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. A movement that did not belong to the rhythm of the street, a presence that felt deliberate, timed, and suddenly everything aligned. The hallway, the conversation, the object I held, her behavior, all of it leading to this exact point, this exact second, and the realization settled in with absolute clarity. This was never about what she was hiding from me. It was about what she was bringing to me. And as I stepped closer, just enough for my voice to reach her without breaking the calm, I spoke her name quietly, not as a question, not as a demand, but as a signal. And when she turned to look at me, there was something new in her eyes, something that had not been there before. Not fear, not hesitation, but recognition, like she finally understood that I had reached the same moment she had been waiting for. And in that silence, in that single shared understanding, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever was about to happen next, it had been planned long before tonight, and neither of us was walking away from it the same way we arrived. There is a moment when two people stop pretending at the same time, and that moment does not explode. It tightens, it sharpens, it becomes something quiet and irreversible. And I felt it the second Scarlet Hayes looked at me, really looked at me, because whatever illusion she had been holding on to shifted, not completely, but enough for me to see the edge of something real beneath it. And I did not move closer. I did not close the distance, because distance is power when you understand how to use it. And right now, I needed her to decide how much she was willing to reveal without being forced. and she held my gaze for a second too long, just enough to confirm what I already knew. She understood that I had seen more than she intended. Not everything, not yet, but enough to change the balance between us. And that was when she exhaled slowly, not in relief, not in fear, but in acceptance, like she had been waiting for this exact shift, this exact moment where the truth would no longer stay hidden behind carefully constructed walls. And when she spoke, her voice was softer than before, but it was no longer controlled in the same way. There was something else in it now, something honest, something unguarded, and that was more dangerous than anything she could have said with precision, because honesty, even partial honesty, opens doors that cannot be closed again. And I listened without interrupting, without stepping in, because this was not the time to take control. This was the time to let her believe she still had it. And she turned slightly, her back no longer fully toward the city, no longer fully toward me, caught somewhere in between, like she was standing at the edge of two different choices. And I could see it in the way her fingers tightened briefly against the railing, the way her shoulders rose and fell with a breath she did not quite complete. And then she said my name, not as a question, not as a warning, but as something heavier, something that carried meaning beyond the moment. And I understood immediately. This was not just about what was happening tonight. This was about everything that led to it. Everything she had built without me knowing, everything she had placed carefully into my life piece by piece until I believed it belonged there. And that realization did not shake me, it focused me, because now I was no longer reacting, I was aligning, adjusting every detail in my mind to match the reality in front of me. And when she finally turned fully to face me, there was no hesitation left, no attempt to soften what was coming next, just a steady gaze that held mine with the same intensity one had seen in that hallway. And that was the confirmation, the final one I needed. Scarlet Hayes was not caught in something beyond her control. She was part of it, fully, completely. And whatever was about to unfold, she had chosen to stand in the center of it, and that choice changed everything, because it meant this was not a situation I could solve by removing a threat or closing a gap. This was something deeper, something that required understanding before action, and I do not act without understanding, not when the stakes are this precise, this calculated. And as the silence stretched between us, filled with everything neither of us had said yet, I felt something settle into place, not doubt, not anger, but certainty, because for the first time tonight, there was no illusion left to protect, no version of her I needed to preserve, only the truth, whatever it was. And as I held her gaze without breaking it, without giving her anything more than the calm she had come to expect from me, I realized something that shifted the entire direction of this night. I was not standing across from the woman I planned to propose to. I was standing across from someone who had been planning something far longer than I had. And the only question that mattered now was not what she was going to do next. It was whether she had planned for what I would do when I finally understood. The truth does not arrive all at once. It unfolds in layers. And the most dangerous layer is the one that feels almost like understanding, because it tricks you into thinking you are already ahead. And I could see that shift in Scarlet Hayes now, the way she held my gaze without retreating, without softening, like she had already accepted that the line between us had changed and there was no reason to pretend otherwise. And that was when I realized something else. She was not afraid of what I knew. She was measuring what I would do with it. And that changed everything, because fear creates mistakes, but calculation creates precision. And Scarlet Hayes had been precise from the beginning. And as the silence stretched between us, I did not break it. I let it build, because silence forces decisions, and she was the one who needed to make the next move. Not me, not yet. And when she finally spoke again, her voice was steady, almost calm in a way that did not match the weight of the moment, and she did not deny anything. She did not explain what I had seen. Instead, she asked a question, simple, direct, and completely intentional, asking how much I understood. Not what I saw, but what I understood, and that distinction mattered, because it told me she already knew I had seen enough, and now she wanted to know if I could connect it, if I could reach the same conclusion she had been building toward. And I did not answer immediately. I stepped closer instead, just enough to shift the balance again, to remind her that whatever she had planned, whatever structure she had built around me, I was not a passive part of it. I never had been. And when I finally spoke, I kept my voice low, controlled, not revealing more than necessary, because information is leverage, and I do not give leverage away without purpose, and I told her exactly what I chose to tell her, not everything. Just enough to let her know that I had reached the point where guessing was no longer part of the equation. And I watched her carefully as I did. The slight change in her expression, the way her eyes sharpened just a fraction, confirming that she understood the shift just as clearly as I did. And that was when she smiled. Not the soft smile she used before, not the one designed to disarm, but something different, something real. And that was the most dangerous moment of the night so far, because that smile carried no illusion, no performance, just acknowledgement, like she had been waiting for me to arrive at this exact point. And I understood it instantly. I had not disrupted her plan. I had reached the stage she intended for me to reach, and that realization did not slow me down. It sharpened me, because now the game was no longer hidden. It was active, moving, unfolding in real time between us. And as she turned slightly, her attention shifting once more toward the city below, I followed her gaze again, not with curiosity, but with intent, because whatever was coming next was no longer a possibility. It was inevitable, and I needed to be ready for it, not react to it. And as the lights below flickered in a pattern that felt almost too precise to ignore, I understood something that settled into place with absolute clarity. Tonight was never about what I would discover. It was about what I would choose to do once I discovered it. And Scarlet Hayes had already made her choice long before I ever saw the first crack in her story, which meant the only thing left now was mine. And as I stood there beside her, the distance between us smaller than before, but heavier than it had ever been, I realized that whatever came next would not be decided by truth alone. It would be decided by who controlled it. And I have never lost control of anything that mattered, not once. And I was not about to start now, no matter how carefully she had planned this moment, no matter how long she had been waiting for it. Because if she believed she understood how this would end, she had made one mistake. She had underestimated the one variable she could never fully predict. What Jackwick does when he stops playing along and starts rewriting the rules entirely. The moment control shifts, it does not announce itself. It reveals itself through choice. And I saw that choice in Scarlet Hayes before she ever moved, before she ever spoke again. In the way her attention locked onto a single point below, unwavering now, no longer subtle, no longer hidden. And that was when I understood something that changed the entire structure of the night. Whatever was coming was not just part of her plan. It was the center of it, the reason everything else had been built. Around this exact second, and I did not ask her what she was waiting for. I did not need to, because the answer was already unfolding in front of us, slow enough to notice, precise enough to matter. And as I followed her gaze again, this time without restraint, I saw it clearly. A black vehicle moving against the flow of the street, not erratic, not rushed, but deliberate, its path too controlled to be coincidence, its timing too exact to ignore, and the moment it came to a stop directly beneath the building, I felt the final piece fall into place, not as a question, but as certainty. This was not something she had arranged to avoid. This was something she had arranged to meet. And that realization did not trigger anger, it triggered clarity. Because now I understood the direction of her plan, not every detail. Not yet. But enough to know that whatever she had brought to me tonight was not meant to remain hidden. It was meant to be revealed, on her terms, in her time. And I turned my attention back to her slowly, watching as she finally stepped away from the edge, her expression no longer guarded, no longer divided, but resolved, like she had reached the point where there was no reason to pretend anymore. And when she spoke, she did not soften her words. She did not frame them carefully. She simply told me that everything I thought I knew about her was incomplete, not false, not entirely, but incomplete in a way that mattered. And I listened without interruption, because the difference between truth and manipulation is not in the words themselves. It is in the intent behind them. And I needed to understand her intent before I responded. And she continued, not explaining everything, not giving me the full picture, but enough to shift the ground beneath what I had built around her, enough to make it clear that she had not entered my life by accident, not in the way I believed, not in the way I allowed myself to accept. And that was when I felt it, not doubt, not uncertainty, but something sharper, something more precise, realization. Because if she had not come into my world by chance, Then someone had placed her there, or she had placed herself, and neither option existed without purpose, and I stepped closer then, closing the distance fully for the first time since the night began to unravel, not to confront her, not to intimidate her, but to make one thing clear without saying it. I was no longer standing outside her plan, I was standing inside it with full awareness, and whatever came next would not unfold without my involvement. And she held my gaze without stepping back, without breaking, confirming once again that she had expected this, that she had prepared for this moment just as carefully as she had prepared for everything else. And that was when I understood the final layer of what she had built. This was never meant to be one-sided. This was never meant to be something she controlled alone. She needed me to see it, to understand it, to step into it, willingly. And as the quiet hum of the city below continued, steady, indifferent to the shift happening above it, I realized something that settled everything into focus. I had not been pulled into her world. She had been guiding me toward it, step by step, until I reached the point where I could not turn away without losing something I did not even realize I had already chosen to protect. And as the vehicle below remained exactly where it was, waiting, patient, deliberate, I knew this was it. The moment everything would move from understanding to action, and the only question left was not what she had planned, but whether I was willing to follow her into it knowing exactly what it would cost. Some choices are not about right or wrong. They are about whether you are willing to step into something that will change you permanently. And as I stood there with scarlet haze, the city breathing quietly beneath us, and that black vehicle waiting with a patience that felt almost intentional, I understood that this was one of those moments, not because she forced it, not because she asked for it, but because everything she had done had led me here, to a point where walking away would not restore anything I had before. It would only confirm that I had never truly understood what I was holding in the first place. And I looked at her differently then, not as the woman I thought I knew, not as the version I had built in my mind, but as she actually was, someone who had stepped into my world with purpose, with direction, with a plan that had unfolded with a precision I respected more than I resented. And that was the truth I could not ignore, because I do not respect weakness, I do not respect accidents, but I respect intention. And Scarlet Haze had been intentional from the very beginning, and that realization did not push me away from her. It pulled me closer to the truth she represented. And when she spoke again, her voice quieter now, no longer explaining, no longer revealing, but simply stating that what came next would not wait, that it had already begun. I did not ask her what it was, because I already knew that whatever answer she gave would only be a part of something larger, something I needed to see for myself. And I let the silence settle one last time between us, not as tension, but as agreement, because in that moment, without saying it directly, we both understood that there was no version of this night where we returned to what we were before. And I reached into my pocket slowly, feeling the weight of the ring I had planned to use, the symbol of a future that now felt incomplete, not broken, not gone, but unfinished in a way that required something more than what I had intended to offer. And instead of presenting it, instead of forcing that moment back into existence, I closed my hand around it and left it there, because timing matters. And this was not the moment for promises built on incomplete truths. This was the moment for clarity, for choice, for stepping forward without illusions. And I took a single step closer to her, closing the distance completely now, not as a challenge, not as a demand, but as a decision. And I told her, quietly, evenly, that whatever she had planned, whatever she had been waiting for, I was not going to stand outside it. I was going to walk into it with her, not because I trusted everything, not because I understood everything, but because I chose to see it through to the end. And her reaction was not surprise. It was recognition, like she had always known I would make that choice once I saw enough, once I understood enough. And that was when she nodded, just once, a small movement that carried more weight than anything she had said all night. And she turned toward the door leading back inside, not hesitating, not looking back to check if I would follow, because she already knew. And as we stepped away from the terrace, away from the quiet, and into the controlled chaos of everything waiting beyond it, I felt something settle into place, not as a conclusion, but as a beginning, because whatever this was, whatever she had built, whatever had been set into motion long before tonight, it was no longer hers alone. It was ours now. And as the elevator doors closed behind us and the city disappeared from view, I realized the final truth I had been moving toward all along. I did not lose control tonight. I chose where to place it, and that choice would define everything that came next.